Another day, another conversation about the Vancouver Canucks and their potential draft plans. You see, we had been making commentaries over the past few days, diving into whom it is the Canucks could take at 1, 2, or 3, based off of a bunch of different lists. You have the consolidated ranking list on elite prospects, which cites McKenna, Stenberg, and Verhoff as the 1, 2, 3. Chase Reed is making waves, and you also have Caleb Malhotra, who is down here at 13th overall, but let's be real, this consolidated list is probably going to get updated soon, as Caleb Malhotra has definitely been shooting up the charts, ranked 5th overall by elite prospects, 4th overall by McQueen's. You had Jeff Merrick the other day on Schaefer and Price talking about the idea of Vancouver potentially taking Caleb Malhotra at number 2 over a guy like Ivar Stenberg and smack dab in the top 3. There is a chance that this guy goes a lot higher than the 13th overall consolidated ranking that he has right now. And I wanted to expand more so on that conversation within the scope of the Vancouver Canucks, and whether or not drafting Malhotra at 2, or goodness forbid, maybe even at 1, would be as hot of a take as it seems to be. Let's head over to the R Canucks subreddit, because earlier this morning, Seal Dodger 47 posted the same quote that we had looked at a few days ago. Jeff Merrick on the Schaefer and Price show talking about how there have been multiple people in this organization that have been following Malhotra all season long. I really do wonder if it's not the first overall pick that the Canucks get here. Like, even if it's number 2, I wonder if this is the direction they go. We did have our spiel about it, but there were some interesting comments and replies to this thought that I wanted to expand upon more on this channel. Take a look at what Onion217 said. No, you take Caleb Malhotra at 2. Aleksander Barkov was ranked consensus 4-5. He went at 2. Draisaitl was not ranked over Bennett by just about anybody. If you have the whole draft board to pick from, and you think Caleb is the best player at 2, even if he is ranked 4 or 5, you take him there. If we're going to have any shot of being a championship team, we need our scouting to be better than consensus. And if this is an example they feel is better, then they need to take a risk and take Caleb at number 2. Yeah, let's just euphemistically read this last sentence over here. But I don't know, respond to this idea, or at least I think it's interesting to dive into the idea that if you fully believe that Caleb Malhotra is the best guy possible, and he is going to be that good, he's going to be a game changer more than a Stenberg or a Reed or maybe even a McKenna, then at some point you have to question, all right, is taking him at 2 or taking him at 3 the right move? Would it not be more idealistic to trade down? Because the guy's ranked in the 13th overall spot in his consolidated ranking, and you have a bunch of other lists that have him at 4 or 5? I mean, for what it's worth, we haven't necessarily seen many lists ranking Caleb number 2. We've just seen people on the hockey sphere talking about it being a hypothetical that, yeah, if this team really likes him, they could take him at number 2. They wouldn't risk trading down. They would just take the guy that they want. And these previous examples of players in the past who ended up going higher than expected are noteworthy, for sure. Alex Barkov was taken in 2013, 2nd overall behind Nathan MacKinnon. You take a look at the projected rankings for Barkov, he was supposed to go 4th overall, ranked by future considerations in 2013. This 2013 NHL Entry Draft saw a bunch of guys near the top. I remember Seth Jones going 4th overall was seen as a really big deal because this guy was ranked by a whole bunch of people as being potentially the number 1 guy. Yeah, who would have thought, eh? 13 years ago, Seth Jones was supposed to potentially be 1st overall. Future considerations had him there. But he slipped from 1 to 4. Nathan MacKinnon, of course, ended up going number 1 in reality. Meanwhile, Barkov went from 4 to 2. Leon Draisaitl is a guy who ended up going 3rd overall in 2014, despite the fact that there was a lot of conversation that Bennett was going to be the top center in that draft. This was an interesting year because there actually was a realm where Sam Reinhart could have gone 1st overall, and based off of the career that Reinhart has had, I mean, I wouldn't say that's the worst 1st overall pick available. He is not the top point producer out of this draft class. You do have Draisaitl and William Nylander, who have scored more than Reinhart, but the multiple Stanley Cups after endless years in Buffalo, it's hard to ignore that. Vancouver was trying to go for that 1st overall pick from Florida and potentially take Reinhart with that, but they ended up sticking around at 6th overall and they took Jake Virtanen. Leon Draisaitl was a lot better than he ended up projecting. You take a look at where he was supposed to go, he was ranked 5th by future considerations, 4th by McKeen's, and he overtook Sam Bennett and became the 1,000-point franchise scorer that we know today. So this idea that Caleb Malhotra, if they see him as that good of a guy, then maybe you just bite the bullet and say, we'll take him. Although it should be acknowledged at the same time, the OHL and the CHL in general is weaker than it has been in prior years. You have Leon Draisaitl, who was drafted out of the WHL. Alex Barkov, on the other hand, this guy was drafted out of the Liga. Caleb Malhotra is getting drafted out of an OHL that is weaker because of all the top-tier talent that went to the NCAA. If anything, this is a bigger indictment against Malhotra than it is anything else. You could also say it's a big positive for guys like Gavin McKenna and potentially Keaton Verhoff, who were forced to play in the NCAA against tougher competition. But with that said, not every comment on this thread is super positive at the idea of taking Caleb Malhotra at number 2. This reply says that Barkov was the consensus number 4, but the difference between 1 and 4 in 2013 was small. This year, the top 2 are close, then the next 4 are close. It's not the same thing. Malhotra has risen to the occasion in playoff hockey and is looking like the best player on the best team. Stenberg ended up getting demoted to the 4th line and had a very rough finish to his season. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Stenberg did not have a good end to 25-26. Meanwhile, Caleb Malhotra, you look at what he's been doing in the OHL playoffs, 18 points, 10 goals, 10 games. Again, a weaker league in general, but still he has been looking awesome. And it's why we even spoke about the idea on the YouTube channel of, hey, maybe it's not Vancouver that takes Caleb Malhotra at number 2, maybe it's another team. If another team goes out there and wins the 2nd overall lottery, let's say McKenna goes first to whichever team that's not Vancouver, let's say another team wins 2nd overall and Vancouver slips to 3, there is a world where San Jose potentially takes a defenseman, Reed or Keaton Verhoff at number 2, or another team takes a center like Caleb Malhotra at number 2, and a guy like Stenberg slips to number 3. That's also possible here. Further to this point, I wanted to end this video off with this comment, also on the same Canucks thread. Radiant Sherbert 7272 said, do the Vancouver Canucks believe that Caleb Malhotra is the best player available, or would they be taking him based on need? My worry here is that the Canucks are going to make the same mistake that they made when they drafted Olli Juolevi 5th overall instead of drafting Matthew Tkachuk all those years ago. They drafted Olli Juolevi based on need, instead of taking the best player available, which was Tkachuk. Stenberg or McKenna would be the better player at 2nd. I'm all for taking risks, but Vancouver isn't in a position to be doing that at the draft right now. So you have replies saying that, yeah, you go out there, you take your risk, you gotta be better than the consensus. You've got other replies saying, hey, Vancouver isn't in the position to take risks. Bake Sale at Searing says if they love Malhotra that much, they need to trade down, or at least get more picks. You can't be done with this and reach with a 1 or a 2. So with that said, within the scope of looking at historical draft scenarios, Barkov, Draisaitl over Bennett, over guys like Seth Jones. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the Caleb Malhotra number 2 argument? And do you think it would be better for Vancouver to trade down if that's the case? If a team really wants Malhotra at 2, maybe Vancouver can trade down to 3, for example, and get Stenberg instead. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.